Hey guys, welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we're dedicated to helping you sell more books. I'm your host, Lindsay Baroker, and I almost pronounced my name correctly. And I'm also here today with Jeffrey M. Poole and Joseph Lalo. We're
Hello.
going to be, yeah, hi guys, say hi.
Hello.
And we've decided our topic for today, we're just going to talk amongst ourselves about Facebook marketing. Something that we all like to do, ha ha ha, but that it can be great for helping to build your brand and maybe sell more books. We'll kind of talk, we'll each chime in on each question and kind of share our experiences. So we've got a list here, and the dog came up to help me, so after napping for 3 hours, she chose this time to get up. That's kind of how it goes around here. But so yeah, Facebook marketing, and so why don't we just jump right in and ask some questions, and everybody will chime in and say what they want to say on the topic.
Well,
So, oh, go ahead.
my first question is have either of you two used it? Because I haven't yet. I actually created an ad for Facebook.
I have indeed. I've promoted a post. I have not actually done an ad, but that's my experience so far.
Okay, for those of us that don't know, what do you mean by promote a post?
Well, promoting a post is when you can select a post. They actually have it. They call it boosting a post now, I think. But generally speaking, when your Facebook post goes out, it goes out to a small selection of your friends and followers, it is. And when you boost a post or promote it, you can make sure that it goes out to either all of your followers and all of their friends, or you can do a targeted demographic, which I've never done. So basically, you pay. It depends on how far you want it to go and how long you want it to go, but you pay for it to hit as many people as wanted to know about it, plus all of their friends. It used to be, I think in the early days, it used to be that was just the case. If somebody followed your Facebook fan page, for example, then they would see everything that your stuff would show up in their feed eventually. And then they changed it so that only a subset gets it, and then you can pay to have everybody see it. So I've done that a few times.
Do you feel it's worth it?
I'm going to try the targeted one because Laura in a previous thing said that she had some luck with that because you can choose like I want women in a certain age range in these certain areas in these certain countries. Like you can choose the people who it would be most effective against, as opposed to just sort of a scattershot thing. I haven't tried that, and again, I hear that that's more effective. I will get a lot of reach when I do this, like a little number that basically they come up with will tell me, oh, well, a lot of people saw your stuff. And I suppose the more active people who are on my list are more apt to answer when it's been boosted because all of them see it. But I haven't really seen a really impactful, like, I haven't seen a sales spike. The best I've ever been really able to pull off with it whenever I did it was getting a lot of feedback. Like if I'd asked a question I wanted answers on, like a very important, I have a large turnout to that answer, then I would boost it and I would get 50% more answers, which might be worth it, I suppose. But it tends to cost between these days when I do it, it costs about $40 to boost a post, and then it boosts for 3 days. And I don't think that I've seen a $40 comeback on any of this stuff by any metric.
So what? You just have to have a credit card on file. I mean, if someone wanted to do this, do they really know what they need to know what they're doing, or they can just say, "Here's my credit card. I want to boost that post," and then it's out of your hands?
You set up a payment plan, a payment option. There's a couple of different ways you can link your PayPal account to it. You can they give you Facebook credits, so that's why I boosted my first post. I got a thing, oh, you reached whatever 700 likes or on your thing. Here's $50 of free advertising. So you can say, all right, here's how I want my stuff to get paid, and here's you can put a roof on how much you're willing to advertise. And so yeah, once that's all on file, then whenever you have your post that you want to boost, it literally is a little button on the bottom corner that says Boost Post, and you'd click it, and it brings up the little drop down. It tells you what options you have and all that stuff. And you can click through all those and then say boost, and it will verify a few things. They have some policies about which things can and can't be boosted. If it's I don't know if this is still the case, but it bit me one time. If it's an image, it can't be more than 2/3 text, and a few other things which screwed me over because I had an image that was my book cover that was more than 2/3 text because there was a title on it. But yeah, other than that, they'll verify, and then you'll see instead of 200 people seeing your post, 700 people will see your post. But it's very, very turnkey. I haven't had any trouble with it at all.
Good to know.
Let me just put in there, I think it's only like 20%. If it's 20% or more text, you'll get flagged and they'll stop your ad from running, which is really annoying. But you can actually email them back and say, hey, dude, I'm an author. This is the book. It's the cover of my book. What else am I supposed to use? And you probably shouldn't be all sarcastic about it. But I have had them then come back and approve it. So that is.
Yeah, that's happened to me as well. It was one of the ones I boosted. It was a link to I guess a sales page or something, and you can choose your featured image. And I chose my book cover, but it was cropped just by the automatic, magic that does this. It was cropped so that just there was no text on it, and they still rejected me. I guess because the original image had text on it, and I called them. I was like, hey, well, I didn't call them. I emailed them. I was like, what's the deal? And they reinstituted the boost, but not with the lost time. So my 3-day boost ended up being like a day and a half. That was a bad experience, but that was the free one that they gave me, so I wasn't that upset.
All right, well, do you guys want to maybe jump in first and just kind of talk about like whether you guys are actually have an author page or whether you're using a personal profile on Facebook, and what your thoughts are? Why are you doing one over the other?
In my case, I have an author page. Well, that's to say, it's a fan page, but it's for my books. It's not actually named after me. It's named after the book series, and I did that number one because it just seemed like they give you more tools and analytics and whatnot, or at least at the time I did it, it seemed like that was the case. It seemed like that's what I ought to be doing. Also, at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep Joe Lalo the author versus Joe Lalo the person separate. So I gave myself the option of doing so by having the fan page instead of my personal page as my Facebook presence. And that's about it. I didn't really think too deeply on the subject when I made that decision.
As for me, I was dragged kicking and screaming into the Facebook world. My sister said, "Oh, you're an author now. You need to make your own Facebook page here." I refused, did not want to do it, so she actually created it for me. And so the only real page I have on Facebook it is a personal profile, but I have nothing personal about me on there. It is nothing but the book. So my Facebook address literally is facebook.com/Bocking Chronicles. So I'm Mr. Bocking Chronicles to you guys there. So, but everything is just nothing but book related. I have no personal information. Anytime I see like a fan or anything requesting a little more information, or typical Facebook profile finisher, you need to tell us where you went to school or where you worked. I'm like, I just won't do it. So it's a personal profile. It's a personal page, but it's really nothing but for the books.
All right. And do you like friend everybody that friends you back on that, like that's a fan?
If someone comes up and I see that someone wants to be your friend, I typically will go ahead and do it. But if by chance I start, and I've got my little list of questions down here, I've actually got it set to where if I start getting too many invites from these people that are for someone else's stuff, then I'll unfriend them. It's happened a few times, but it hasn't happened often.
And have you come up against, when I was deciding, personal page or whatnot, I think you could only have 2,000 followers or friends was the max you could have on a personal page. So, you're kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll have more fans than that one day. Have you come up to that limit, or do you know if that limit's still in place?
I haven't heard anything about it. I've also, as a computer tech, I go out to people's houses and I help with Facebook because there's a lot of people that don't know how to do things with Facebook, and I've seen quite a few of them that have over 2,000 and just like personal web pages there. So I would assume they might have lifted that since then. I don't know for certain. I am not there yet. But
okay, yeah, you're going to some popular people's houses there.
Well, I know I go into people's houses that That's what they do. They sit there, they like to tinker and make a comment on every last little Facebook thing they see, or else they do that for a quote unquote job, where they'll say, okay, well, I'll go ahead, for X amount of like $10 for like an author, I'll go ahead and promote you to my friends. And so they send out these stupid invites to everybody there. It's like, those are the sort of people I'll usually either unfriend or unfollow.
All right, I'll make a note not to send you the Candy Crush invite later. But for myself, I had a personal page already, even though I hardly ever used it. So I decided to go with the business page just to keep everything separate. I occasionally post pictures from trips and stuff on the personal page, so I usually don't friend readers unless I happen to recognize a name because we've had some email conversations or something. I try to get them all to go over to the business page. And I think, can you actually do promoted posts on the personal pages right now? Have you tried that at all?
I personally haven't, no.
I think more of the business stuff, the advertising stuff, is probably set up for the pages as opposed to the personal accounts. But yeah, I've seen other people too that just choose to do a personal account, especially if you're not on there for any other reason. So, but yeah, how about how long have you guys been using Facebook, and are you using it do you think more to connect with your fans and build a community, or are you actually trying to sell books through Facebook?
Me personally, I mean, I haven't actually started writing any sort of post that said, "Hey, go ahead and buy my book." I've seen a lot of authors that do that. Don't get me wrong, but I just find it tacky, honestly. So I don't personally do that. But what I have learned, if I said before, if I can just keep people interested in the books, I talk to them, I interact with them, then the interest in the books remains active, and I see sales as a result. I did a couple experiments a couple of months ago where I decided to stay off Facebook for a while and just see if it affected the sales. Believe it or not, it did. The sales actually dipped when I wasn't on there talking about it, because apparently my experience is fans like it when they can talk to an author and they can feel like they're part of the book or the bookmaking routine or whatnot. So they like to talk about that with their friends, and then it just expands from there. So that's predominantly why I do it.
In my case, I mean, I will for Facebook. I've been on Facebook for personally since college, so I don't know, 2006 or 7, I guess. And but the fan page shortly after I published my first book, so that was back in 2010. And I talk about I'll give book news. That's what I use it for, is book news. I don't just post, hey, buy my book, just periodically, because my book's available, and if you're on this page, you probably found it through the back of the first book. So that's it's not really effective to tell somebody to buy my book series that you already read. But I'll whenever there's any new development at all, here's some new artwork, I'll post that up on there. And I definitely use it a lot for contact, just communication with the fans. Although sometimes it can be funny because, like as he said, people like to feel like they're part of the process. So if I haven't said anything in a while, I'll just say something just to say something. I'll be like, I feel like I haven't been giving you people enough cool stuff. So what's some cool stuff I could do? I could do a chat, I could do this, I could do that. And the last time I did it, they were like, how about you just finish writing whatever you're writing? That would be the best thing you could do. It's like, quit wasting time on Facebook, author, start writing. So fans like to be part of the process, but they also like the process to continue along. So that was a fun discovery of mine.
I've got a few of those that do that, and they say, like, stop, offering contests for print copies of your books. Finish the next one. I'm like, all right, just trying to say hello. Fine, I'll go back to my little cave and finish writing.
Nice. Yeah, I've got the pretty much the same thing as Joe. I use it to post. I'll put little quotes if there's something funny that I just happen to write or I think it's funny, and or I've shared some of my more interesting typos. Yesterday, I had something that was like, if only he knew the language, he could find what he needed in the librarian. That was
Boy,
a hit.
What kind of books are you writing there, Lindsay?
Yeah. I'm really good for sexual innuendos in my typos for some reason. I don't know what that says about me, but I will definitely, I'll keep tidbits, keep them paying attention between books. I think it's good to kind of post something every couple days, even if it's just a little snippet of what you're working on, or yeah, if you've got artwork, that's always really popular. When I've posted fan art, you know, you usually get a lot of likes. Although then you get the critics too, and I feel bad for whoever the original artist was, because they're like, the nose is too big, or that doesn't look like how that character should be. Like, guys, it's free, okay? Just enjoy it. But and then
Yeah,
when I have a, oh, go ahead.
I had somebody come along. I posted some fan art one time, and again, it was fan art. A fan just said, "Hey, here's a picture I drew," and the artist is spectacularly skilled, but he's also an art student, so he likes to draw in different styles. And he drew one in very like illustration style, and then he drew one in very other style, and he drew one of the main character. Who apparently a lot of the people on the page felt was an over-sexualized representation of that character. And they were like, "Oh, you're turning her into a bimbo," and this, that, the other. And then a bunch of other people like jumped to that person's defense, and there got to be this argument in the comments about like, "Well, this, that," and I was like, "Could we just agree that it's a nice picture? How about that?" I didn't take it down. I was tempted, but I was like, "No, he deserves to have this up here." But it's amazing how that does not depict the person as I imagined it. Turns into this whole thing.
But see, now looking back, that's probably like your most popular Facebook post you ever had, most
Yeah,
page
highest
views or
engagement.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will when I have a new book that's ready to come out, I'll definitely. I think that's the time when I'll make it more like marketing type, where like here's the blurb, here's the cover, and I'll pay to promote the post just in case friends of the friends who like my page might see it and think, hey, that looks like a cool book. So, but that's only once every couple months whenever there's a new release or something out. For next question, do you guys have any recommendations for people who are just starting their first Facebook page and have like 3 likes and they're trying to help their readers find it, or they're just trying to find more readers and hoping Facebook will help out with that?
There's a couple of things I've actually participated in where some of the events I don't automatically delete out of the invites, where they say stuff like, these groups here are getting ready to like, you can actually give you like denote an hour where you can actually say, okay, for a whole hour I'll go ahead and answer questions, interact, socialize with other authors, potential readers. You can actually get your name out there. And one of the things they specifically do is they say like, okay, well, if you're a member, a part of this, or you're agreeing to be a part of this, whenever you see another author, just do them a favor, go over their page, hit like. I mean, just events like that, I would say, be on the lookout for, because they exist out there. They publicize it all the darn time. When you see it, sign up for a slot or two, and they say, hey, I'll be available Saturday, whatever the date is, at 2 o'clock Mountain Time, and I'll go ahead and talk about my book either for half an hour or an hour. And just, it's a good way to get a lot of people, sending you friend requests, getting a lot of likes on your page. So like I said, I've done that a few times and it works fairly well.
In my case, well, first off, if your fan page is new, or you're using your Facebook for promotion as a new thing, but your book isn't new, obviously you should have some sort of indication that you have that fan page in the back of your books, because that's how I got a lot of original likes on my fan page, probably all the likes on my fan page, where I put a link to, I have a contact page with all of my, you can find me on these places, and I linked that in the back of my free book, so whenever I had a free book promotion, if anybody made it to the last page, then they would be able to find me in my various social media things. So if you have an established readership and you just wanted to have this as a way to talk to them, then obviously put it in the back of your book. Or even if you don't, put it in the back of your book. It's useful to do. If you are starting your book and your Facebook at the same time and you don't have anyone who knows about you, word of mouth is handy. It's hard to get people to. It's hard to just sort of beg people to like you and then tell them to beg other people to like you. And frankly, that doesn't go over well. I've found. I agree that being part of a sort of a group where we all sort of share. If you like my stuff, coming over and like my page, that's useful too. And I'll tell you what you don't do. We mentioned earlier the difference between posts, promoted posts, and ads. You can do an ad. You can do an ad that puts your thing in the corner of somebody's page and has them like it, but I don't recommend that at all. I haven't done it. I've read all about it though. And as we say, only a little portion of your friends, or only a portion of the people who like your page actually see your stuff, and you don't get to. More people don't get to see it unless those people interact. I guarantee if you put up an ad to try to build likes, you're going to get 50,000 likes in a couple of days. But there are going to be people who actually don't care, and they're not going to engage with your post. So you might have a really high number, and if you're just looking for a very high number and to claim that you have a strong author platform, then go ahead and spend the money. But if you're actually trying to get engagement, you're going to get a lot of people who don't care, and you're going to get a lot of people who just are trying to build the number of things they like and will never ever interact with you. So you actually decrease engagement with that. So I don't recommend ads, at least not the Facebook, like ads. So that's my feeling on the subject.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice for people. I had the same experience when I wanted to try the pay-per-click advertising, even though I knew coming kind of from the search engine marketing world that it was going to suck and be a horrible return. I always try everything, throw $20 here and there just to say you never know. But yeah, that was very early on. I did that, and I was just trying to promote the book basically, and I didn't even know that the likes were included. So I think I got about 50 likes that way, and maybe one book sale. But I definitely agree. Now all of my likes are just, early on I put the links in the back of the book also, and for Twitter and finally Google Plus, even though I'm horrible and I'm never on there, and for my blog and my newsletter. I will say that I've seen people that just put their newsletter link in the back of the book, and they're really focused on that, and that's great. That's something we should probably talk about in a future episode is newsletters. But I've found in my personal experience that there are people who will only follow you on Twitter, or they only follow you on Facebook, or they'll sign up for your newsletter because they're not into social media. But not everybody wants to get a newsletter. So this is kind of well, if I can't get them on my mailing list, at least let me get them to like my Facebook page, and then you can have a chance of connecting with them again in the future through a boosted post if you have to, or you never know, they might become a big fan and write comments every time you have scantily clad fan art on your site. But I do agree too that when there's like 10,000 likes or something, and you're trying to impress, say, an agent, and let's say you want a traditional deal and you're hoping for that, and then they go to your page and there's like 3 likes for the last thing you posted out of 10,000 people, nobody's going to be impressed by that. So I think it can be useful when when you're just starting out and you have no likes to maybe network with other authors and just maybe get up to 50 or something like that, just so your first reader doesn't come and they're like, oh, really? I'm the first person to like this page? This author must be a loser. But yeah, as far as you're probably not going to sell a lot of stuff to other authors, so I try not to whenever I get, will you please like my page or will you please come to my event? I'm like, no, I haven't read your books. I don't really care about you. I'm sorry. So.
Yeah, I agree. The author note at the end, which I've put ever since my first book there, says exactly that. It's like, if you want to be able to find me online, I encourage you, look me up on Facebook. If you like the book, great. Hit the like button. You hated it, that's all right. I can take it. Go ahead and leave a negative review if you like. Just tell me what you didn't like about it so I can try and correct it for the next one, or see if I can ultimately veto it. You never know. But just let them know you exist at the back there, because people will read it, and a lot of times they like seeing a note about the author or from the author at the end of the book. Usually lets you know, like, hey, what are you working on next? And what are you interested in? What inspired you to write the book? That sort of thing. So it helps tremendously.
Right, and I think, self-published authors, we're lucky because we can easily go in and play with our back matter. I think for traditional publishers, I would just say, talk about it on your blog, have your posts on your links to your social media things on your site, and encourage the newsletter sign up so that you can communicate directly with your readers, even if what's published in the back of the book is set in stone. And maybe you can have some say early on and get them to add, here's my Facebook and all that. Not sure how well that goes over in print since nobody really wants to type it in, but anyway, moving on to the next subject. How do you guys go about encouraging interaction? Since, as Joe was saying, it is important, the more people interact, the more your posts tend to be shown around, and that, like, if somebody interacts with your site, they're more likely to see your future posts in their feeds. So it's definitely important to encourage that.
Well, me personally, I like to, one of the coolest things I ever came up with is I called it on a blog post, want to name a fictional character. And then I asked for people. I said, okay, well, I'm looking for a dwarf name. Who wants to actually pick out a dwarf name, and I might be able to use it in a book? And if I do, I'll put a little thank you note at the end of it, for everyone that ever contributed. I mean, just stuff like that. And I had my fans just went, I was going to say ape something or other, but they went crazy to go ahead and they'll say, oh yeah, look at this, I helped write a book, I named this guy, and this one will say I named that guy. And so I mean, it works out well. I mean, I have no complaints on it. I mean, and there's times when if I'm not actually talking about my book, and I say if I'm in the middle of working on a book and I'm not ready to release one yet, and I feel like I need to talk to them and say something, I'll just say like, hey, what would you rather be eaten by, a dragon, a griffin, attacked by a sea serpent, you name it, and just stuff to keep like a little friendly banter sort of thing, and you usually get some talking again, and it works from there too.
I definitely find that if you want to have interaction, if you want to have people answering you back, like commenting on your post, asking a question is important, even if it's not like a poll or something, or trying to get somebody to name a character, but just generally at the end of your post having a question mark so that it required a reply. You will get more responses than just, here's information. Even if it's here's information, what do you think? Then you'll get more engagement on that. Art, again, I'll always talk about art, and I'll always put up art. Art invariably gets more likes than anything else I've ever had. If I put up, even if it's not like a masterpiece, even if it's seriously from an 8-year-old who really liked my stuff and drew a crayon picture and put it up, I'll get 75 likes on that. Meanwhile, I could do a giveaway and get 5 likes. It's just people like to see the picture. So I've also found, I don't know what it is, and maybe it's I'm reading too into it, it's my imagination. I find that links get fewer likes and fewer comments. Like, it seems like just fewer people see links. So even though when I have something to link to, sometimes I won't put the link in there. I'll just mention where they can find it, or I'll put the link in as a comment on my own post. And the other thing that I'll do, if I'm trying to improve sort of interaction with a post, is if anybody answers, I then answer them. I'll reply to their answer, just so that there's a conversation as opposed to just a blast and forget. And then you get like replies on replies, and there's little mini conversations going on. It sort of seeds the pool. Things start to work out a little bit better. So that's what I do. Art for likes, questions for comments, and just interaction in general to get people flowing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I've heard the suggestions to use questions, and it kind of cracks me up. There's one lady that always is like, what do you think about divorce? Have you ever been divorced? And I'm like, you write urban fantasy, why are you asking these questions? But she does get a lot of interaction on her Facebook page, that's for sure. But yeah, I tried to keep mine more book related. And I've definitely found the same thing with artwork. Even if I post a cover or somebody does a fan art that I can post, I always wish I had more of that stuff to share because it really is popular. And with the questions, it's kind of funny when people will like a question, like, but you didn't answer it. It doesn't always work. But and I actually, in my experience, sometimes this is going to be like the first start of building a community, because people can interact on Facebook easier than they can on Twitter, or obviously with email you're just one-on-one with other people and nobody else can see what you're talking about. But I actually had a fan start up a forum so that they could discuss the characters and that sort of thing. Off on she bought a domain and everything, and it's still up there, and there's usually some people in the chat room in the evenings. So if you're really wanting to build a community, Facebook can kind of be the first start of trying to get your fans together. And it's actually cool because I've had a couple people now that are like couples, or I think some even got married that hooked up because they, like, through my books they found each other. So it's really a cool experience when you get something like that going on.
Very nice.
I still haven't found my guy yet, but whatever, get my Russian order groomed someday when I'm a rich author. But I wanted to say too, I think I've heard on some marketing podcasts that that's true about the links, Joe, that maybe something like Facebook doesn't want you to encourage you to send people away from Facebook, something like that. So yeah, but obviously I'm going to use them when I have a book that I'm going to promote, just because it's easier. Take the step away, here's the Amazon link. But yeah, I found when I do a blog post that might be useful to the readers, that when I link to it, yeah, maybe not as much engagement and just overall site views or post views as you would expect. But next question, are there any tools, or have you done anything with events, or what's your favorite aspect of Facebook that you like to utilize as an author?
Me personally is I haven't ever created an event. I've been invited to a lot of them, but I've never actually created an event there. My favorite aspect of it is, I will have to admit to my sister, she was right, I was wrong, is just being able to talk to the fans, interact with the fans, and letting them know I'm just not a name on a book cover. I'm actually a person here that, I've got feelings too. I've got my own opinions, and I have no problems talking to them about it. Where if they ask a question, well, what does this mean, or what does that mean, or like most recently, I announced that I announced the name of my next book, for my third book in the Tales of Lantari series. Well, it got really creative because I've got a really cool friend of mine in England called Brett Gable who drew me a font. Literally, he painted a font for me. So I thought it'd be real clever is I went ahead and I put the book title in that font, put it up on my blog and said, figure it out. I'll give you a couple letters here. Good luck. They had a field day with that. They were like, well, what do you think this word is? What do you think that word is? Well, how about this one? How about that one? I was like, stuff like that just makes my day. So that's what I use it for the most, is talking to the fans.
Yeah, likewise, I like to talk to the fans. I have been a part, not ironically, not as a part of my own book release or anything, but I have been a part of an event. I was in an anthology not too long ago that was kickstarted. It's called Blackguards, and it was an anthology about anti-heroes, more or less. And it was traditionally published by a small publisher, and they have a fairly active community already. And they ran an hour-long, they called it a block party, where they said to their entire, they hyped it up, at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we're going to have all of the authors for the Blackguards anthology on. And then they would sort of do little posts like on the page, well, here's a thread so you can talk about what's your favorite part about writing an anti-hero, and here's one about the importance of a good setting. And it started like these 6 or 7 simultaneous conversations, and there was a post where, right now we're going to talk to Joseph Lalo. So that's an interesting thing that you can do with Facebook, is sort of every post, the posts are there all at the same time, they're all on the page at the same time, so you can sort of start separate conversations that all stay alive if you've got a strong enough following. I don't have a strong enough following to do that on my own site without a lot of lead up, so I don't use that too much personally. I do a lot of interaction, and I've also found, and this is an interesting thing, like I have people who will only communicate with me through certain social networks, even if we have each other's email address. Like there's a few fans where I've had to, they asked for autographed copies and they paid for it via PayPal, so we ended up getting each other's email address because that's how PayPal works. But they will still only communicate with me through Facebook, either on the page or sending a message to me through Facebook. So some people are more comfortable with that sort of layer of abstraction, like, well, he's not really interfering with my privacy at all because Facebook's between us. So it's handy for people who are uncomfortable communicating in any other way.
All right. Well, yeah, I have to admit I'm kind of bad as an author about answering those Facebook messages. I'm just really good at not noticing them there for a long time. And like, you guys all know my email. Couldn't you just have emailed? But yeah, I don't know. It's like one more place to check.
Even one of those handy dandy little red lights and numbers up in the top right corner of your Facebook page that says, "Hey, someone left you a message." Or
yeah, but this is how I do Facebook. So they've now moved it too. They're changing it. You have to download some new app to do it to get the messages on your phone or something. I was like, oh gosh, I'm never going to do that. But yeah, it's one of those things I tend to do on the phone when I'm standing in line or something. So when I'm at the computer, that's writing time. But as for myself, I have not really been. I've been in like one event that was for a book bundle release, and it was on some bloggers. The blogger that does blog tours was organizing it, and my experience was kind of like, yeah, what's the point to this? Do people actually sit at their computers from 6 to 7 at night to engage in a Facebook event? I don't know. It didn't seem to go over that well, but I have heard of other authors that have had different experiences where maybe they get like 20 other authors, and I think Brian Cohen, the guys over at the Somewhere Books podcast right now, they just did some big, I forget what they called it, something March to a bestseller or something. I think they had 20 authors giving away their books for 99 cents, and if you're really going to publicize it and do it up like that, I can see where it'd be helpful, especially if you're a newer author and you can manage to kind of sneak your way in with some more popular authors that have followers. Maybe it could work out. And I don't know if anybody watches this down the road or listens down the road and has more experience with these events and actually sold some books out of them. I would love to hear about it. So, please leave a comment on our site. What's the name of our site? marketingsff.com. We should probably include that in more, mention it more often. But so moving on, how do you guys deal with the constant barrage of likes and invitations to events, speaking of those, that you get from other people, usually other authors?
That's one of my gripes, unfortunately, with because like I say, I like talking to the fans, but what I usually will do, if it's an author that I'm friends with that's trying to get a like for maybe one of their own personal books, I'll go ahead and do it. But when I see someone pushing someone else's stuff, then the answer is an immediate no, because I'll just delete the little request right out of there and flat out ignore them. If they send me too many, I unfollow them. If they still persist and try to go around that and just leave messages everywhere, then they get unfriended. But luckily I've only had to unfriend a few people. Most of them though that are just annoying like that, I'll just go ahead and unfollow them. Still leaves them as friend where I can see them, I give them a message, they can see the stuff on my post, but they'll cut down on the amount of stuff they actually send me, which is kind of nice.
In my case, I honestly, from the fan page, don't get a tremendous amount of stuff like that. I very, very rarely does someone on the entreat the fan page to like their stuff. And on my personal, very few people track me down because I spell my first name. My name is Joseph, as it says on the cover, but when it's just J-O. My big thing is I don't have the E on my nickname, and it confuses the heck out of everyone, and no one can ever find me. Even though I've said this in this podcast, and I've said it to many people in many places, they have no idea that J-O is going to be a guy with a beard. So I'm sort of weirdly incognito despite attempts to the contrary, and haven't had to deal with much of that. I am... Yeah, well, thank you. I'm willing, I suppose, to like other things if it's relevant. I've liked, like the plush artist has got her own page. She didn't ask me to like it, but I used my page to like hers because she's done work for the books. And likewise, there was a publisher, the Bulgarian publisher who translated my stuff. They have a fan page. I like theirs just for the heck of it. And but other than that, yeah, I'm lucky enough that for some reason people have not assaulted my page with requests of that kind.
See, now that's actually a really good idea. I made the mistake of my personal page is Lindsay Baroker, and my author page is Lindsay Baroker. So I think if you search in the search engine, it's just random which one people will click on. So, and now that I think about it, all those kind of requests and likes and join this event do go to my personal page. So I think it's a good idea to use a different name, or maybe make it author your name for your personal page, so that there is a way to differentiate for just somebody that's looking up in Google or something like that. As for whether I go to any of those events, no, sorry guys, I really just ignore all the invitations and stuff, and I think that people expect that. I think when you can make your own event, it just has you like send it blasted out to all of your friends. So I'm assuming other people are ignoring these authors too. So, but I guess a couple more questions. We should probably be wrapping it up here pretty soon. Have you guys participated in any Facebook groups at all, and like related to writing or publishing? And if so, do you get anything out of that?
I personally haven't. No, not that I say that I would turn them down if someone invited, but as of right now, no one's invited.
There's a few situations where I've been in groups. There was sort of a blog hop type thing that we did where we tried to, it was me and 6 other authors, tried to do this sort of 7 authors, 7 books deal, and we spent a week, 1 author per day, where we were trying to promote each other's books. I don't recommend it because basically when you really blast people with other people's stuff for an entire week, they don't tend to like it. I didn't see a tremendous number of unlikes or dislikes, whatever it's called. I didn't see a lot of that, so I didn't really feel damage from it, but I didn't find it to be very effective. And part of that had me sort of seeking out a lot of other Facebook groups that will promote your stuff if you ask them to. And I might have seen 8 sales. We're talking about a week of tracking down and asking to join groups or soliciting invitations to groups, and I didn't get 1 book per group. So the groups like that are useful if you're active in having a discussion with those people and you sort of build your network through those those groups. But if you're just using them as part of a promotion, or if you're just using them as a one-time, you know, tell everyone about my book deal, I haven't seen a tremendous amount of improvement.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done a lot with groups, but I'm in a couple of them, and I've found that it's more about networking with other authors than selling books. One, like if you're in a genre where maybe you don't know a lot of authors, or it's kind of a small genre, I actually am in the science fiction romance group on Facebook, and there's like 500 or 600 people in it, and it's pretty active. And so if let's say you want to put together a book bundle or something and find some other authors to do that and do some kind of promotion like that, that may be a way to find other people. Or I got invited to do some guest blog posts that way. This was very early on when I was doing my second novel, which was kind of fantasy, and I was pushing. I was like, there's a romance, and it's got some steampunk, so it's kind of science fiction. But it's a pretty good group of people, and so I would encourage anybody to look and see if there's something like that in your genre, especially if you're writing in a real niche of a fantasy or science fiction. Like, let's say you're doing I don't know, fantasy with male romances. Have I picked on these guys before? I think I have, but you know, that's probably like not a big readership, and you don't know a lot of authors that do it. But maybe you probably find a Facebook group or something out there with a few other people, and you know, there's definitely some benefit to be had from doing cross promotion with each other. Maybe not on the Facebook page like you were saying, but putting together a bundle of like 8 different authors, 99 cents. You know, I've been in that with my urban fantasy, and you know, I've got a lot of new readers that way, and we sold like 100,000 of them, I think. You know, obviously not all those people are my readers now, but at least they've been exposed to my work, or even if they hated it and threw it across the room. But so it can definitely be useful to network with other authors in your niche. But I think that's all I have on groups. Maybe a couple last questions on where you think Facebook how it's changed and where it's going. Have you seen any improvement or decline in the last few years? I think we've all been on it now for at least a couple of years. So what have you kind of seen? Is it less effective than it used to be?
I've only been on it a couple of years now, probably 2 or 3, I think it is. And I personally, I don't know how much it's changed because, like I said, I haven't been using it that particular long. But what I think I've noticed now is it still seems to be just as popular as it was when it first started until the next great social networking website new thing starts. But people are still using it. I still getting fans left and right at this, liking to be able to contact an author right up the front. So the social aspect of it is still working just fine for me. So I haven't seen any change there, and I'm hoping it stays the way it is, personally.
I was in it. I was again the fan page way back in probably 2010. I had my fan page, and I really feel like I feel like changes to Facebook have come along at an approximately equivalent rate to the amount that I've been gaining likes, and each change basically knocks away all of the benefits I got from those additional likes. So at the beginning, when I had 200 people reading my posts, 200 people were reading my posts because I swear they were going out to everybody at that time. And then they changed it, and it went from 200 people to 75 people. And then I started to build up more and build up more. I started getting 200 people seeing my posts again, and then it just drops it away again. So it seems like every change they make probably makes Facebook better for Facebook users, but I found decreased just by the numbers engagement, so that as I've gotten 1,000 more likes since the beginning, I have about the same number of likes on each post, about the same number of comments on each post. So I feel like it's not as effective for me as it was at the beginning. Or I should say it's exactly as effective for me as it was at the beginning, but it should be more effective now.
Yeah, I've had the same experience. I think I've been on there since summer of 2011 or so, which puts it before there was advertising, or before the boosted posts anyway. You could always do the pay-per-click advertising, but it seems like when they came out with like, oh, you should pay money to boost your post to the people that already liked your page, that it became a lot less, you got a lot less natural people just following along in your feed. And so now, like, I have 3,600 likes or something, but yeah, I agree. It's sort of like, I'm not sure I get a whole lot more interaction than I did with 1,500, let's say. So it's you know, it's sort of like love it, hate it. You kind of have to use it as an author, just because there are so many people that, you know, I've definitely noticed that when we had Laura on here, she was saying she could hit that kind of baby boomer demographic, or I guess she's a little before that. I think she was going for like 35 to 50 or something like that. But like those two age groups are on Facebook, whereas I've noticed Twitter's if you're not trying to sell something, you know, finding people that are like over 40 on Twitter seems to be pretty rare, or even over 30, 35, you know. So for some reason, Facebook works for, I don't know, but my parents are on there, and your guys' parents might be on there. I'm always shocked at how the generation that told us, get off the computer, don't play those video games, you know, they're on there now doing Candy Crush and whatever that farming thing is. I always get invitations from like my friends from school, like their moms. Like, really? Okay, thanks. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would have a question with regards to, let's say, like, back to what Joe was saying and what you were saying about the amount of effective people you're reaching. You know, still he seems to stay the same, even though you get more people liking your page and whatnot. I'd be curious to know from someone that, say, uses Facebook and does fairly regular paid advertising, if by chance their reach seems to be a little bit stronger, like Facebook is deliberately favoring those who give them the bucks. I'd be curious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
go ahead.
Yeah, I would say again, I don't advertise generally very much. I think just the way the algorithm works, because they give better treatment to people who have better engagement than if you are paying regularly, and even if you only have 20% more people liking or talking on your post because of your ad, then your ad, I mean your posts are going to have, generally speaking, better engagement, and then they're just going to have a higher opinion of your page. Like, nobody knows the magic numbers that they're actually working the stuff on, but I think that they sort of help the people who don't need the most help. So if you've got a popular page because you've been paying for it to be more popular than it is, it's going to generally be I don't know, more popular. I don't know. It's a cyclical thing, I think.
Yeah, what always gets me when Facebook tells me, like they send me an email, you know, this particular post of yours was more popular, more interaction than most posts. Would you like to promote to boost, or would you like to pay to boost it now? And I'm like, this is the post where I asked people what I thought the character's hair color should be in the next book. I'm not going to pay $50 to get more feedback on that. So I do think they definitely are encouraging people to advertise, and I'm not sure if, because I usually do the promoted posts every time I release a book. I just figure, you know, and I do get use my own affiliate links on the site, so I can see that I do make sales from that. You know, whether it's more sales than it would have been normally, it's hard to tell. But I always wonder, will more of those people start interacting with the site or with the page after that? You know, because I've gotten more people who maybe hadn't interacted with a while to give me a like. And you know, I think it would take a more statistics-minded person than me to actually like graph this stuff and make a spreadsheet, figure out exactly if you're getting more per month, or you know. And then Facebook does have some analytics in there that you can use, and I pretty much ignore it. I'm like, yay, I got 3 extra likes this week. That's good. But engagement was down 10%. No, you know, if you get obsessed if you get into that too much. But
The red and green numbers will destroy your mind. It's just like, no, like sometimes I can't even tell which side is supposed to be good or not, but there's a color difference. Like, red is bad. I gotta fix whatever turned red.
yeah, next week you have to ask more silly questions about what your divorce rate is and what's your favorite color, so that you'll have the green color back on your analytics.
Seriously.
Yep.
All right, well, I guess last question for me, guys, is do you have any thoughts of the future of Facebook marketing, or like what's coming, what we could take advantage of as authors, anything like that?
What I foresee them doing is, and I guess I can see why they keep pushing the profile all the time there. I can see them trying to fine tune just about everything they can to learn as much about you as possible. So let's just say if you like say, okay, I like books, I like fantasy, I like sci-fi, I like steampunk, I like all this stuff there. So then when the marketing aspect comes up and says, okay, for $150 here, we'll go ahead, we'll make sure your post hits, say, 1,000 or 1,500 people that specifically say they like fantasy. I mean, I can see them doing stuff like that if they're not already doing so. I mean, just trying to get as much information out about you as possible so they can use it to their best advantage. That's what I see them doing.
For me, just based on what they've done in the past, they're going to continue to make Facebook better at usability for the just social media aspect of it. From the point of view of us, the people who are using it to actually advertise, I think they're just going to find more ways to get money out of us. I don't have a bad opinion of Facebook, but I do find that every single change is made to cost a little bit more to get this same effect. So I think it's going to continue to sort of slide downward in the future. And I don't know how they're going to use it, but I do know that Facebook bought the Oculus Rift, which is a virtual reality helmet. So maybe they'll have 3D virtual posts like Johnny Mnemonic. Maybe that'll happen. If so, I'd pay $50 to have a weird extra 3D post with floating hands and cyberspace.
Me too.
All right, well, you guys are the target market for that then. Jeff, I do think that they get all that information now, and because if you go in and do ads, especially if you do the pay-per-click, you can go in and say, yeah, I want people in this age, I want steampunk fans who also are fans of Sherry Priest, or you can like put in authors as keywords, so you can get really specific, which is neat if you're advertising, but I found it just doesn't pay out. It doesn't work for books. There's too low of a margin. You know, you're going to make max of like $2 or $3 per book sale, ebook sale, and you're probably going to have to spend $20 in order to get that that one person there to buy your book. If you're selling RVs or something like that, I'm sure it's great. But,
Well, you got to wonder too, who actually takes the time to fill out their profile, every last little aspect of it. So it makes you wonder, like, okay, are you targeting the old people that have nothing better to do to go ahead and just fill all those questions out? Because most people, my age or whatnot, they're going to like, yeah, they don't need to know that. No, they don't need to know that. No, they don't need to know that, and just skip all the stuff that they don't really feel like answering. So you have to wonder who your ads are going to hit.
people who read books and have time on their hands. I don't know. They're pretty persistent though. They're determined that I update my like marital or relationship status and what books I like, and so I think people maybe just get tired of being harassed. They're like, fine, I'll fill in my favorite authors or the movies I like, and so that's how they get you. Persistence.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all the questions I have. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to bring up here?
Let's see. How well does it work? We covered the advertising, covered the socializing. What feature did I did that? How do you do with the concept? I did that. You'll see. The only other question I really have had there, I was just wondering if you two have ever run into this, because like I say, I've had to do this a few times. You ever had to unfollow anybody, just for whether they're being belligerent, whether they're slamming you with too many junk messages heading your way? Just how often, if you ever have, how often have you had to unfollow someone?
I think go ahead.
All right. I have not had any. I've not had to take any punitive action against anybody on any of my pages. If there was somebody who was really causing a problem, I'd have to do something. But so far, I'm happy to say people have gotten along pretty well, and I haven't had to deal with too much spam. So haven't had any experience with that.
Yeah, I think when you have an author page, it's a different story because you're not following anybody. They're just liking and following you. And the only thing that ever shows up is very rarely I'll get somebody a spam comment, and then you just like mark it as spam, and you can choose to delete any comments that you don't want on your page if they're offensive or something like that. So
you guys are lucky. I must be attracting a different crowd. I don't know.
Well, I think that the personal page versus just the business page, it's probably because like I said, you're not following anybody. They're not really. It's not quite the same relationship as you're on the business page. So
I might have to look into switching that just to see what it would take. But yeah, I get it every once in a while. I say I only had to unfollow a few, but because most of the times they'll just blast me with all kinds of stuff like this, do this, do this. But for the most part, though, I ignore it. So.
I guess one last question I forgot that comes up often is, what do you think about doing separate pages for each of your book series, or do you think just one author page? I've seen that question asked quite often. So.
I personally, I started out that way where I created a page for my Bakken Chronicles, the Prophecy, which is the first one for Insurrection, one for Amulet of Arya, which is all three of them there. And then once that series hit a certain age and I started working on the new series, pretty much got rid of those 3 pages and condensed it into one just for the Bachian Chronicles. But for the Tales of Lantari, since they're new now, I have a separate page for Lost City, separate page for Something Wyverian, and I'll create another one for the new one that's coming out there. But I mean, usually it depends on the age of it. Usually, what I end up doing is, if especially if it's a series, I'll condense them in an older one, and that way, if there's any comments about any of them, they can just focus right on the one page itself. Get too many pages, and I have to try and keep a track of all these things there. And me, I'm lazy. I like to be simplistic. Don't need all these billion little pages for everything there.
I have a couple of series now. I have two main series, which are one's sci-fi and one's fantasy, and I have a couple of, we'll call them nano experiments, which one of them is about to officially become a series if I succeed at NaNoWriMo this month. But I I could understand and see the value of having a separate page for all of your series because, at least in my case, the series are so fundamentally different. They're not likely to have a lot of overlap. Unless someone is a Joseph Lalo fan, chances are they're not going to be a fan of both of my series. But at the same time, I think there's a lot more value to just having one central repository for information about your books. If I've been thinking, I would have named my Facebook fan page after me as opposed to after the Book of Deacon. But at the time, I didn't think I was going to do anything else. So it confuses people, I'm sure, that I'll talk about the sci-fi books on the Book of Deacon page, but I think just the overall larger numbers and the less work it takes, if I had to juggle 3 or 4 fan pages, I would have 3 or 4 fan pages that were 1/3 or 1/4 as active. So I'd just rather have the one reasonably well-maintained one. And if people are interested in a post, then they just won't pay attention to that one. I like the simplicity, and I like the just overall larger numbers of having it all focused in the same place. Unless you have pen names. Pen names, just to keep up the illusion that you are 2 different people, probably have 2 separate identities on Facebook.
Yeah, I definitely think it can be so much work if you're trying to make 3 different pages cool, and it's just, why make that much work for yourself? I agree, just one author page, and since I do have a pen name now, you guys will have to ask me in like 6 months if I'm still doing it, but I just decided not to do social media at all. Just got a website and a mailing list, and that's it, bare bones. And I'm kind of be curious to see myself does it even matter if you're not on social media? You know, I've already sold about 500 books, so doing okay without that stuff. It's only a month old, so. But we can talk about that more in some future date. Yeah, so I guess we've been blabbing for an hour on Facebook. I think that's all I have, and like I said, I would love to hear from listeners, someday when we have some. If any of you guys have done events, especially, or anything on Facebook that just really rocked it, we would definitely love to hear about it here.
Hear, hear.
Yep.
All right, bye-bye, everyone. That's it.
All right, y'all guys, have a good night.